Hey viewers, welcome to a review of last week's battle, Battle 10 of Season 6. This is between the Inquisition forces and the remnants of an Ork army that have taken hold of our castle, Drea'Voor. We had a battle last week with it was a kill team battle inside a tavern, and the idea here is the Orks basically spilling out of the tavern, and they basically encounter a patrol moving by. You would have seen it last week anyway in the stop motion and the comic strip type video, but I'll just show you what's going on at the moment. So at this stage I haven't actually started making Battle 10. I've laid out the board. This is the board I'm going to use. So this is the castle, Drea'Voor castle. So the Orks are going to spill out of this and come out here somewhere, and moving across the battlefield here is going to be our Inquisition, Grey Knights, etc, etc. So I've got the armies laid out on the top up here at this stage. Again, this is our heroes over here. This is our Inquisition force, not in any particular order at this stage, just sort of up on the shelf. So that's our Grey Knight army just there. Down here we have our Orks. I'm going to use this modified Necron monolith as part of this battle, so we'll see how that rolls out. So those are our Orks. Look, you'll get a better look at them as the videos progress, but that is our Ork army. Heaps of boys, a couple of big units, but we've got the Grey Knights on the other side, so they should be able to hold their own. Anyway, so that's our layout of the board and our armies. So I'll show you what happens next. Okay, now I've finished doing the introduction at this stage. We had our Deathwatch biker there take a bit of a cruise through the middle there in front of the castle and came out the other side. He was the advanced scout, basically guiding the rest of his force along behind him, and these guys were just basically sitting out here in the open. He gave the all clear, all ready to come through, and then we had our main Ork character who's made another appearance. I think he's going to have a few more appearances yet in this series. Comes out, looks out across the battlefield and says, don't know what he says at this stage, haven't actually written it, but anyway, he looks out there and sees all the enemies, gets his Orks all together, no doubt something like War, I'm guessing, but anyway, we'll wait and see what witty things he can come up with. So then all this comes spewing out of the castle, and these guys are left to try and survive. So heavily outnumbered, lots of Orks, even a couple of larger machines there for the Orks, but we've got some specialist units here on the Grey Knight side who should be able to go toe to toe with the Orks in an interesting battle. To wait and see how it pans out. There we go, Grey Knights versus Orks, heavily outweighted by numbers, but can they survive? Turn 1 coming up shortly. Right, here we are at the end of the first half of turn 1, and this is the first part of the new style that I've used, which is basically an extension of the kill team section battles that I've been doing. Basically I have a camera set up and everyone has their movement across the board. All these Ork units basically all moved in one go, and we only had a couple of firing episodes, one from the Gargant there, and we had the Grok Tag have a shot, and that was about it, I think, from this battle. All those Orks basically charging across the board, led by these boys at the front, hopefully trying to get out there and act as some cover for everyone else. Of course these guys are going to rip them to shreds, but there's a fair bit coming around here, flanking on this side, so that's the plan for the Orks. Distract with mob of boys and then come over the top with the big guns. So we'll see how the new style works out as far as using the comics and the stationary setup of the camera. But yeah, like I said, we'll see how that goes. We've got the second half of turn 1 coming up shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the second half of turn 1, and the Grey Knights have taken out a huge swag, well, not a huge swag, but all those orcs just there. I'm trying this new format, and it's easier to record, and just got to work out later if it's going to edit okay, so we'll wait and see. Well, you would have seen it last week, but I'm just experimenting as I'm going. But anyway, looking at the board, we've seen the Terminator Librarian there come up behind this tree line here and vaporise an orc that could be seen through that little avenue there. Excuse me. We had two groups of Grey Knights, couldn't resist to get stuck into that big pile of orcs in the middle. They just came charging out, they were the bait, and they were just irresistible. We had various fire from behind this tree, these trees by the Death Watch. We had some cannon fire there, which, yeah, like I said, just ripped right into them. Likewise, the Dread Knight had a shot as well. Couldn't really get a shot over that rocky area there against the Gargant. So that's going to be a big face-off at some stage between those guys. And the biker over here took off one guy from that group over there. So he's going to try and keep his distance because there's an awful lot of orcs just hiding around here. These guys just can't wait to get into close combat. The Grey Knights took the bait. What can the orcs do next? Turn 2 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 2, and the orcs have charged across the board in their usual manner, making a huge wreck along the way. I've just changed a couple of ways I'm doing things. Firstly, as I move across the board, this group of orcs here just basically came from around behind this rocky area and fired into that group of Grey Knights. Obviously not very accurate with their shooting. Managed to take out one, so what I'm doing is I'm leaving the wounded or killed models on the table, so I can easily see that when we go from turn to turn. So one of those guys was shot by that group of orcs there. We had combined fire from the Gretchen there and the orcs up the back there, taking out a second Grey Knight just there. Moving over here, we had the mega tank, Grot mega tank, fire into this unit over here, taking out one. That unit over there just basically charged from back there and couldn't really do anything, even though it's so close to charging that tank. Don't know why you would want to charge a tank really, but there you go. We had two Grot tanks here, fire at this Death Watch character there. It also took fire from the Gretchen up here, so he got taken out. We had the large Stomper, the converted monolith there. We had a whole bunch of orcs sort of come up that rocky area, jump onto that little ledge and come inside that, so that's full of orcs. These guys over here. And we've got the character up there leading the way, telling everybody to charge, sitting on a little platform just up there. Down here we had more orcs race from way back there and tried to fire, but really they couldn't hit the biker down here. Couldn't kill it, but I don't know what that biker's going to do. Pretty game to go charging all that. Anyway, that's up to them to decide. So we've got second half of turn 2 coming up shortly. Here we go, Grey Knights turn 2, and they've taken out a ton of orcs. We had the Dread Knight and the biker basically say, look, stuff this, I'm going to go down this canyon area and take on this mob of orcs, bearing in mind this thing's full of orcs as well. They ended up taking out 6 orcs. They're both heavily wounded, but they did get reinforced by some deep striking units up here, just taking a position up on this rock. All they've got to be concerned about is some Gretchen down there they don't care about, and maybe they might draw the fire of that. Don't know. But anyway, that's where they sit at the moment, and they've taken out all those casualties. Moving over here, we had this guy here take a shot, take out one Gretchen over there. We had combined firepower from tank, Deathwatch, Grey Knights, obliterate all those Orks there. They're all gone. I think this is a lot better. I can actually see the casualties on the table. I think it's working out a bit better anyway. And over here there's a big pile of stuff. Casualties everywhere. Grey Knights, Librarian, and the Grey Knights, they charged in and took out 10 Orks, but lost 2. So they've carved up that squad pretty well, and they didn't take too many casualties. So a lot of casualties on the Orc side, but they do have the numbers. We'll see if they can hold out. We've got the Orcs turn 3 coming up shortly. Right, here we are at the end of the first half of turn 3, and big pile of Orcs advancing their way across the board, and not a lot of resistance at this stage. Well, maybe not. Over this side of the board we saw our HQ unit for the Grey Knights and their one unit of Grey Knight troops. We're going toe to toe with these Orcs here and absolutely carve them up. Look at those casualties there. There's only one casualty for the Grey Knights, and the rest are just taking the Orcs to task. So there's only a few Orcs left. They won't last long. Moving across the board, we had a bunch of Gretchen get a little bit too big for their boots and charge into a Terminator there. 4 Gretchen went down. Terminator still standing, so we'll see where that goes. Here we had Orcs with ranged weaponry try and fire into this unit of Grey Knights. Only one was taken down. All those tanks, the Grot tanks, lined up there trying to take out this tank over here. And it also was fired upon by the Gargant over there. This tank is still surviving. It's probably good that it's sitting here behind some reasonable cover, being this huge big rock pillar thing here. So that's surviving only just. But it's going to need to, because look at this huge big pile of Orcs here. Half of those came spilling out of the side of that and are now ready to basically come in here, and there's little resistance here. There's 2 Deathwatch characters there ready to do whatever they can do. They're not going to get into that. They might head this way. These Gretchen here came from just behind that rocky area there, came through here and tried to fire upon this unit here, and surprise surprise, didn't do any damage. Over this side we had a melee. Bunch of Orcs went down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 I think went down, and the biker went down as well. So, and also this Dread Knight's looking pretty sick, so I don't know if it's going to be able to fend off all those Orcs. It's pretty even battle here. So one thing the Orcs didn't do is they didn't care about these 2 guys who deep striked down here. So I don't know what they're going to do next. Probably try and carve up this monstrosity just there. But really what they want is they want to free up the Dread Knight to try and hammer that thing and try and take it out. So at this stage Orcs still have the numbers. They've taken out an awful lot of Orcs have gone down though. We'll see if the Grey Knights can fight back. We've got their turn coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of turn 3, and the Grey Knights have fought back pretty strongly. We've had the HQ unit there totally decimate the remaining Orcs there, so they've controlled that area. The Terminator's sitting there slugging away at the Grots They're doing their job, the Grots, though. They're tying up the Terminator from getting into higher value targets. We had the Grey Knights here charge into the ranged Orks there, taking out quite a few. There's only 4 Orks remaining at the back there, and we only had 1 Grey Knight going down, so that's pretty good. We had combined fire from the tank there and some melter fire here, take out the Mega Grot tank there, and we had the lone Death Watch here take out a solitary Ork out of that massed mob there. Over here we had the other Death Watch charge the other unit of Grots, and they got vaporized, so that was pretty good there. Over here, well, we had the Dread Knight and the 2 jetpack units take on the big Gargant there and take it down. This thing's on its last legs, but did its job and took out the big guy. So pretty evenly weighted at this stage. We've got some strong Grey Knight support over this side of the board. We've got a stack of Orks in the middle. We've got some heavies that are wounded. Could go any way. So we've got turn 4 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 4. The Orks have had their turn. And their numbers are proving quite a challenge for the Grey Knights. Here we had a little win for the Grey Knights. We had a melee between the remaining Gretchen and the Terminator there. The Gretchen were trying to basically just tie this thing up, tie the Terminator up, but now he is free to move in his next turn and he's eyeing off various targets. This is a big trouble for the Grey Knights. They were assaulted by the mob of boys there. Only 1 Grey Knight's remaining in the middle there, and he's probably not going to stick around. They did take out a couple of Orks on the way, but that is solidly in Ork control. We had here 2 Grot tanks take out the melter gunner there, so that's a bit of a loss, the Grey Knights. And over here the Dread Knight went down. It was assaulted by all those boys and the war boss there, so a couple of Orks went too, but that is looking pretty sick. So we still have some key characters around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Death Watch, most of a squad of Grey Knights, and we've got the HQ unit for the Grey Knights as well. So even though there's a lot of boys, we've still got that tank over there as well. We'll have to wait and see how it turns out. Second half of turn 4 coming up shortly. That's the end of turn 4. The Grey Knights have held up pretty well at this stage. If we look across the board here, we've seen our HQ unit and a unit of troops, Grey Knights, just taking a position on this rock here, fired down upon this large mob of boys, which is basically reducing very rapidly. 3 casualties there. We had a Grey Knight flee because it was in melee with all those guys. We had the Terminator turn here and take out a Grot tank, and then our remaining ranged units really sort of took this perimeter, encircling the Orks. They don't really want to get into hand-to-hand combat, still too many there, so they just sit by these trees here. That tank's just about gone, and they fired and took out that group there in the front. Over this side, our jump pack units really had nowhere to go, so they decided, oh, let's just get into this. Took out 3 Orks, but also 1 got taken down, so Orks looking like they're controlling that area at this stage. So can this big mob of boys hold out? We've still got some potent Grey Knights in the background, so we'll see what they can do. Turn 5 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 5. The Orks, surprise surprise, have stayed in a big mob here, big chunk of Orks. they turned their attention to the Terminator that was standing there, and that was a pretty easy win. Over here we had the Grot tank turn and face off, actually smash straight into the remaining tank for the Grey Knights. It was basically on its last legs anyway, but they both went up in a big cloud of smoke. Over here we had the Orks and the War Boss turn their attention to the Jump Pack Marine there, the Lightning Claws, and took him out fairly easily. So really at this stage we've got big chunk of Orks, small chunk of Orks, we've got a few Death Watch, 1, 2, 3, we've got a fleeing Grey Knight just there, and the major Grey Knight unit up the back there. So it's still a lot of Orks, but look, we've got the Emperor's Finest hanging around, so we'll see what they can do. Second half of turn 5 coming up shortly. Second half of turn 5, and really not a great turn for the Grey Knights. They should have taken out more casualties. We had no unit engage the Orks. They tried to meander their way around the outside, peppering away at their numbers. We had this unit stay here, fire and take out one guy just there. This Space Wolf melee based character is just basically sitting there acting as a bodyguard, just didn't want to run in there and encounter that by himself. So just sitting there in no man's land out the back there. Same thing happened here. One guy was taken out close range with bolt of fire, and over here the fleeing Grey Knight consolidated with this group here, and they fired and took out only three. So they're within melee range. We've got all those Orks. Where are they going to go? There, down there, or over there. And we've also got the other unit over here. Turn 6, it's coming down to the wire. So we've got the Orks turn 6 coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 6, last turn for the Orks, and to be honest, the last two turns, Orks have really stepped it up. These Orks here were sitting out in the middle. They could have chosen to assault that group over there. They went for glory, as you do when you're an Ork. And what have we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 casualties for the Grey Knights on being assaulted by all that, and the Orks lost 4 in return. So it's not looking so good for the Grey Knights. There's only a handful left. Yes, there's a couple left over here. There's another group of Orks over here. These Orks over here came meandering through this canyon here and fired and actually took out the disappointing Space Wolf. Didn't do anything for the whole battle and got shot by an Ork at the end, which never happens. So he's the biggest failure of the battle. Anyway, I shouldn't be too harsh. The game's not over yet. We've got one turn remaining for the Grey Knights. See if they can salvage something from it. Last part of turn 6 coming up shortly. Well, there we have it. That's the end of turn 6, and very disappointing for the Grey Knights. They really should have had it after turn 4, but they really didn't take enough of this mob out. And that mob just laid waste to this Grey Knights group, leaving only their leader left and still a whole stack there. Bit of heroics from a bit of bolt of fire from the last remaining Death Watch there, taking out a couple of advancing Orks, but they're pretty much intact. So Orks victory, well earned for the Orks. So now I'll have to think about how the storyline will evolve. We've got our Ork hero leader there, who will try and make his way across the map to Smack Urg, the new Smack Urg, which is an Ork capital of this world. And at that stage there's going to be a few more Ork battles, I would say, but then I'll return back inside Drea'Voor here. We'll go in here for our next battle, and regroup with our heroes as they delve deeper into this castle, trying to advance the storyline and get towards the caverns which are right at the bottom of this castle. So anyway, that's what we've got for Battle 10, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.